Hi everyone, so welcome to the broadcast this evening. I'm very much excited for having you again in another broadcast. Remember that this is a Q&A session, so comment below with any questions you have today. I want to share with you how you can strategize yourself and structure your questions or your answers in order to pass your sorry, let me sip some water. In order for you to pass your examination. And I want to also explain and share with you what you have to do in order to the question answering technique. Now, how do you answer the questions? How do you structure your solution? That is what I want to share with you today, because remember, the exams is passed in the exam hall. However, prior to the exams, there are a couple of things that you have to do in order to position yourself, in order to take your life to the next level. So comment below with any questions you have, whatever question you have about anything. Maybe you are studying something and you don't understand it and you want me to share some thoughts on. Comment below with any questions on that. And also, if you would do us a great favor by sharing this video with others so that we can reach as much people as possible, so we can together touch a lot of people in relation to that, because we believe that there are hundreds of thousands of people who will be needing a content like this to assist them to prepare well for the examination. So support us, support me by sharing the video so we'll be able to reach as much people as possible. But most importantly, I want you to comment below with any questions you have. So what questions you have, any questions you have, you comment below, and I'll be very much excited to answer any questions for you in relation to that. Now, so the key question that and the key challenge of students and of you as well is that many students actually get to the exam hall and they actually don't know what to do or how to structure their exams, but their solution. But one of the things that you have to understand is that what you do in the exam hall is critical to you passing the exams, because at the end of the day, passing the exams, or you pass the exams critically in the exam hall. So you pass the exam basically in the exam hall. But how do you structure yourself? How do you write it out? If you read a question and it is 5 marks, how long do you spend with that question? How do you structure yourself in order for you to actually solve the questions, practice, write out your solution, and be able to answer the questions the way you are supposed to answer it in relation to that? Now, one thing you must understand is this: writing the ICA exams, as always, we have 3 hours. Now, the 3 hours marks to 100 marks. What it means then is that 1 marks is 1.8 minutes. Now, I want you to follow this analysis very carefully, because this is how we're going to be structuring on how we can answer our questions, because time is very critical, is very crucial in the exam hall. So we have 3 hours for the paper, and we are going for 100 marks. It means that you have to spend 1.8 minutes on each mark. So it means if you are reading a question, you are solving a question, and the question there is 5 marks. If it is 5 marks, 1.8 times 5, what are we going to get? That's 40 by this. So 1.8 by 5, that's going to be 9 minutes. It means for the 5-mark question, you are going to spend what? 9 minutes on it. Now, it is very, very important for you to understand how these things go by and how you can structure yourself in relation to that. Now, some people write down one thing even before the 3 hours comes in is the planning, reading and planning time, 15 minutes. Now, one thing you have to avoid as a student is to be sometimes people wrongly use that 15 minutes. Now, so let me talk about what people do in the 15 minutes and what they are supposed to have been doing. And I believe you may be a victim of this. Comment below, let me know if you have done this before. So some people write down formulas, pro forma, during the reading time, and they later realize that the pro forma and the formulas they wrote down, they wouldn't use it for anything. So the 15 minutes is not for you to write down pro forma. The 15 minutes is not for you to write down formulas. So, like people are writing management accounting, they know ratios will be there. Did I say ratios? Variance analysis will be there. So they start writing the formulas down because they've chewed formulas. And so they start writing the formulas down, only to realize that none of the formulas written down for the variance will be used in the question, because there was no question relating to that formula. So what do you do in the 15 minutes? That 15 minutes reading time, what do you do? Now, this is what I tell students all the time, and this is very, very critical, and I want you to make sure you hear or you listen to this carefully. The 15 minutes reading time is not for you to write down your formulas. It's not why are you writing down formulas? It means you already do you already have the APA or what? You've choose some baba. So it goes back to the back. So even before we come to the exams time, let's go back now. Comment below with any questions you have, and share this video as much with others so that we can get them. If you have a colleague that has to watch, you can share and tag the person, or comment below with the person's name. The person will get a notification and the person will join. I'm sharing one of the most critical things you need as a student in order for you to pass your ICA examination. So let's go back. Now, before you get into the exam hall, there are a couple of things that you have to do. Before you get to the exam hall, there are a couple of things that you have to do. Now, if not for coronavirus, you would have been writing the exams next week. So next week, Monday, corporate reporting, financial accounting, financial reporting, boom, would be lit. And you got to be writing it. So before the exams, what are you supposed to do? A couple of things you are supposed to do before the exams, and most of which you know already. Number one, you've got to study. Prepare well, understand everything. Now, after you study and all of that, you must understand the structure of the exams. Now, when I say understanding the structure of the exams, how is the 5 questions going to be? So, for instance, if you pick financial reporting, you know there is going to be a question on consolidated financial statements. You know there is going to be a question on accounting standards. You know there is going to be a question of interpretation of financial statements. You know there is going to be a question on single entity financial statement. You know there will be a question on ethics and conceptual framework. There will be questions in these areas. That is the structure of the exams. So before you enter the exam hall, in order for you to really utilize your time very well, you must understand the structure of the examination. If you are doing public sector accounting and finance, you must understand the structure of the exams. Now, public sector accounting and finance, what is the structure of the exams? Number one, we know definitely there will be a final account preparation question, either on the consolidated fund or for an MDA or an MMDA in relation to that. There is going to be definitely a question on that. Number two, we know that certainly there will be question on evaluation of financial performance and financial position of a public sector entity. Definitely that is going to be there. Number three, we also know that there is going to be a question on IPSAS. So the examiner will be setting a question on IPSAS. So that is very critical, non-negotiable. You have to understand that structure. We know definitely there will be a question on PPP. That is the public-private partnership arrangement. Certainly there is going to be a question on that. So before you enter the exam hall, you have to understand the structure of the examination. But you don't end there. You don't end there. After you understand the structure of the examination, you must understand the content of each of the questions. Let me not use the word content, the scope of each of the questions. So when I say scope of each of the questions, what do I mean? So I'm going to use financial reporting as a guinea pig. So when we pick financial reporting, what is the scope of question 1 on, let's say, consolidated financial statement? What is the scope? I know that in every consolidated financial statement, I will get something on, I will get a footnote on fair value adjustment. I know I will get a footnote on goodwill. I know I will get a footnote on group intra-group trading. These are constant footnotes I will definitely get questions on. Then from there, I know I may get question on valuation of NCI and share exchange. Those are one-off items. But I know fair value adjustments, intra-group trading, then the issue about dealing with the current accounts between the seller and the buyer, those things I know definitely is going to be there. And then computation of goodwill is going to be there. When I pick financial accounting standards, that is the question 2, what is the scope of that? I know definitely the examiner is going to be examining me on the understanding of the standard. Okay, because that is a level 2. So I'm going to be understanding the standards. So there will be a question on recognition criteria, question on how to represent a transaction in the financial statement. When it comes to interpretation of financial statements, I know among other things, the examiner can do two things. Either he will say I should compute the ratio and do the interpretation, or he will compute the ratios and ask me to do the interpretation. And either I am comparing to the previous year or the industry average. So that is the thing about the scope of each of the questions. So before you get to the exam hall, you've done three things. You've studied in depth. You've understood the subject very well. You understand the topics very well. Number 2, you understand the structure of the examination. Very, very critical. Then number 3, you understand the scope of each of the questions in the exam. That is very, very important. So when you now get to the exam hall and you are given the papers and you have 15 minutes reading time, this is not the time you write formulas down. This is not the time you try to put some baba down. No. You don't do that. That is why your study style has to be critical. You don't chew baba and go to the exam hall. You've got to spend time, study, and understand. Now, I know you're going to say, Nhyira, but there are certain things, if you study them, they will never stick. It's a lie. It is the way you study, that is why it doesn't stick. And that is what I shared with you yesterday. The way you study, the way you don't focus, the way you don't structure yourself, that is why you don't remember. That is why you think that you need to write the things down. Like for instance, last semester, management accounting ratio, the questions on variance analysis, it wasn't the traditional variance. And I had people sharing with me, they're like, oh, Nhyira, when I got to the exam hall, I wrote my formulas down, and when I opened the question, I realized that I cannot use the formulas. I'm like, 15 minutes is not writing formulas. So what do you do with the 15 minutes? Listen carefully. You use the 15 minutes to read through the questions. It is called scan read. Now, when I say scan read, it means you go to the requirements of the question. Very, very important. So you go to the requirements of the question. So question 1, what are the requirements there? Remember, you're going to take your time to read through these things. Question 1, what is the requirement? Okay, then this is what they are talking about. Question 2, what's the requirement? Question 3, what's the requirement? Question 4, what's the... So you read through that. Then you scan read through all the questions in the 15 minutes. So in the 15 minutes, you are not really writing down anything of what you have you have already a knowledge of. No, you read the requirement. So if you read the requirement and it is something that is theory related and you can scribble it down, then you scribble it down with your pencil in relation to that. But the 15 minutes is for you to scan read the questions. That's the first thing. Now, when the examiner says start work, you don't start writing. This is another error that a lot of students commit. So when the examiner says start work, you don't start writing. Because what have you read? No. What do you know? No. What question are you answering? Because you see, many a times, students like financial reporting, they say, oh, console. I don't know why every financial reporting student, I don't know who sowed that seed, though, but it's not a good seed. And the average financial reporting student will always say, I'm answering console first. So they pick console question 1 or whatever question number, console, then they start putting pro forma down. Then before they even go to read the question, what the question is about, they start putting pro forma down. That is a wrong approach. Then as they are reading, as they are going through, they come and read footnotes, then they realize that, Charlie, I can't think. Then they will be there, before you realize 1 hour gone on one question. And that is where the panic begins. And that is where you begin to fail. And so they pick the question, they couldn't tackle it. Then they will switch to another question. Scan read, okay, let me go to the standards and see. Then they pick. So they did not take their time to plan. And that is what a lot of students don't do in the exam hall. So the 15 minutes is for scan reading. If the examiner says, if the invigilator announce starts work, you don't start writing. Take your time, read through all the 5 questions. Listen carefully. Now, I know there is a drive, so consciously, people around you are writing, and you said, Nhyira, I shouldn't write. Time is going. No, you gotta read the questions. How many of you fully read all the questions before starting? There are people, many students fail the exams because they don't read fully the questions. Because they think reading the question is a waste of time. They just go to the requirements, read the requirements, then they start writing. And before they know it, they have digressed. Before they know it, they are writing things that they are not supposed to write. So you plan. When the examiner says start work, don't start writing. You will fail. Don't do it. So start work, what do? Take your time. That is, spare another maybe 10 minutes to read through all the questions carefully. Then you pick and choose which of the questions you can answer best first. Listen carefully. Financial reporting student, you start with console, then you can't do it. Then now, you see, the first question you answer in the exam hall is a psychological question. If you answer it well, it gives you the boost to go through the rest of the questions. If you don't answer the first questions well and you are not strong enough, it will demoralize you and you will not be able to have the confidence to go through. Why? Because you're going to be spending substantial time on that question which you could not solve. Now, since you spent substantial time on that question that you could not solve, you will lose confidence and you will start being fearful and you start panicking. And immediately that sets in, there is blood just flowing through from your heart to your brain, from your heart to your brain, from your heart to your brain, and you can't think in relation to that. So, take time to plan your work. Read through all the 5 questions. Now, you see, I know you can attest to this fact. There are times when you finish the paper and you didn't know there was a certain question in the paper that you could have answered easily, that you knew for sure that you could have answered it easily, and you were spending time on questions that was difficult. Why did you see that? Why did you experience that? Because you did not take your time to read through the questions. So when you get to the exam hall, now this is a discipline you have to have, because when they say start work, everybody is writing. Only God knows what they are writing. Start work, everybody is writing. Now, like I was sharing with you yesterday, financial reporting last semester, 80% of the students scored less than 40%. Listen carefully. Financial reporting, 80% of the students scored less than 40%. This is the chief examiner's report. Now, why will 80% of the students score less than 40%? Now, let's crunch some numbers. If there were 1,000 students writing the ICA examination, writing financial reporting, it means 800 students scored less than 40%. Now, out of the rest of the 200, how many of them actually crossed the 50? Very low. Why do you think that happened? Students are not taking time to read through the questions. So please, I don't want you to fall a victim to that. I don't want you to go through that. I don't want you to experience that. I know you've had that experience before, but you've got to commit yourself not to repeat that experience. So tell yourself today, tell yourself right now, I'm going to train my mind like that. So when you get to the exam hall, you start work, don't start writing. I know your heart will be tricking, your brain will be saying that, hey, time is going. No. Take another 10 minutes to read through the questions and select the question you can do well best first. So you realize that when you read through the questions, financial reporting, I'm using that as a guinea pig. When you read through the question, you realize that the question 5 is a theory, it's about ethics, it's about conceptual framework. You can write that out easily. Then you answer that first. Remember, we are dealing with time as well here. So from our analysis, we realize that for every 1 mark question, we are supposed to spend 1.8 minutes. So there is a question there for 5 marks. It means for that 5 marks, you're supposed to spend 9 minutes on it. That is 1.8 times 5, and that is going to be 9 minutes. Quickly, you write it out, then you go away. So when you take time to read through the questions, when you take time to actually understand the questions, when you take time to actually know the requirements of the question, it is there that you can write. And you have the confidence. You pick the question 5, you write it out. Okay, then you realize that, oh, I can do the ratios. Oh, the ratios is not that difficult. I can compute all my ratios. What did they say we should compute? Okay, they say we should compute ROSI, asset turnover, quick ratio, and then the gearing ratio. Wow, only 4 ratios. Okay, then I need to compute also the interest cover ratios to explain the gearing ratio very well. And I need to compute maybe the net profit margin to be able to help me to do this well. Then I need to also understand the quick. So you compute the ratios and you can interpret this very well. So before you get to consolidation, which may break you down, you have already done the easy ones, so that you save time on the easy ones and now pour it to be thinking on that. You see, you don't start the exams thinking. You see, if you think in the exam hall, you are failing already. So you go to the exam hall, and then between the first 1 hour, you are already doing this. Like you are already, like you are there. Immediately you start doing that, you are on the way of failure. It means you're thinking, and that is wasting your time. And chances are there are questions there that you don't have to think. There are questions there that you don't have to sit down and be chewing your pen. Chances are there are questions there that you don't have to be worried about, and you can just write them out straight. So what am I saying? What am I saying? Step 1 in the exam hall, 15 minutes, read through the questions. That is not the time to write formulas. That is not the time to write pro formas. It will be useless. Number 2, when the examiner says start work, that is not the time you will start work. Take another 10 minutes to read thoroughly through the 5 questions. Take another 10 minutes to read thoroughly through the 5 questions. And always start with the best question, the question you can answer best first. You are not impressing the examiner. This is not a beauty contest where it is the one who dress first, the one who look good. No, this is not a beauty contest. In the exam hall, you are there for marks. You are not there to impress the examiner. So don't think that, oh, console, then and that is what I see students a lot. I don't know who sowed that seed. Up till now, it still worries me when I think about it. Every student you speak to about financial reporting or corporate reporting, the average student, consolidation. Because I don't know if they get to the exam hall, that is the first question they will answer. When I know question 5 is theory, I can answer that. When I know ratios, I can do that faster. When I know that, I can do the standards a bit faster. Because the average financial reporting, corporate reporting student thinks they know consolidation. But when they start answering the console question, they realize that Asuma, they don't know anything. Asuma, there is a treatment they can't do. And that is where they start breaking down. How can 80% of students or candidates score less than 40% in the exams? How? It's because of some of these errors. It's because of some of these issues. You are not in the exam hall to impress the examiner. Don't be egotistic. I don't know who sowed that seed. There are certain questions you don't start with them. So take your time, read through the questions thoroughly, and ask yourself, out of these 5 questions, which one can I answer easily right now? You write them down, you write them down, you write them down, you write them down. That is how you start passing the exams. So step 1, take your 10 minutes. Take your 10 minutes, read through the questions carefully. sorry, 15 minutes reading time, read thoroughly. When they say start work, don't start. Don't start. Take time extra to read through the questions. And always, step 3, start with the question you can answer best first. That is an impression to the examiner that, oh my. Because if you start making mistakes on the very first page, the examiner may conclude that you are dumb. Literally, you are dumb. Literally. Because it means that it's like writing an essay back in high school. The introduction of your essay is very, very important. So if your introduction is dumb, you have a very stupid introduction, and you have a nice body, you realize that at the end of the day, from the introduction, they can conclude that there is nothing better. Because for the essay, we can't read all of them. In the exam, the only impression you can give to the examiner is your very first, second, and third questions. So if you answer the questions you can do best first, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, then it becomes a bit challenging from page 5, we understand. But right from page 1, you are already cancelling. Why? Because you did not read the questions. And many students don't read all the questions. I don't know who does that. Why won't you read the questions? Nhyira, I thought I was wasting time. No. You won't read the questions. So like management accounting, there is the question there and students will not read all. Then they will just start writing. You think the examiner did not think about the question and gave you useless information that you can do whatever you like? No. You got to read through the questions. You got to read through the questions. Now, when you actually start working, there are a couple of things you have to note. If you're watching this, comment below any questions you have for me. Yeah, hello Chino. I hope you are doing well. So comment below with any questions you have for me, and then share the video as well. Let's get to as much students as possible. This is a very critical topic. I believe you are getting more value out of it. And comment below any questions you have on various things, on various topics, so that I can share my strategies with you and provide you with some answers in order for you to increase your chances of ultimately passing the examination. So when you now start writing, there are a couple of things that you must understand. So when you hear start work, you don't just start writing. I've said that to you. Entry and Ignatius, how are you doing? I believe you are doing well. Any questions for me? Remember to share the video as well for us, so we can reach as much students as possible, so that we can impact as much as possible in relation to that. So now when you start answering your questions, so you've taken time to read the questions, you've taken time to plan out the questions. When you now start answering the questions, there are a couple of things you have to note. Number 1, avoid unnecessary definitions. Avoid unnecessary definitions. The examiner says, state and explain 4 factors that affect, state and explain 4 methods of procurement. State and explain 4 methods of procurement, or 4 procedures of procurement, whatever it is. Yeah, public sector. Then it starts defining procurement. We don't need the definition of procurement. The examiner didn't ask you. You won't get any additional mark for that. You will not ask for the definition of procurement. It says the methods. And there are a lot of times students spend time giving unnecessary definitions that don't add up. You go straight to the point. The following are the methods of procurement. Then you go ahead. Competitive, 2-stage tendering, single sources, restrictive tendering. You stay them down, then you pick them one after the other and explain. So you have to be careful to avoid unnecessary definitions. Number 2, avoid unnecessary explanations or examples. There are sometimes, like the marks that I gave you, like for instance, the question I just gave you, explain 4 methods of procurement. And the marks there is 10 marks. Now, if the marks there is 10 marks, and I'm explaining 4 methods of procurement, if the marks there is 10 marks, that means that 1.8 times 10, I need 18 minutes. So it means you need 18 minutes on that 10 marks questions in relation to that, because each question is actually 36 minutes. And so you need 18 minutes on that question. You realize that 4 things, people will be trying to give examples. They want to, I don't know. Some students think that writing more in the exam hall means you get more marks. That is something you have to get off your head. If you are writing more and they are all unrelated, because you know, when you sometimes when you try to talk more or about something, when you try to write more about something, the average individual goes off guard and starts digressing. So you have to be careful of unnecessary explanations and examples. Go straight to the point. Go straight to the point. When you go straight to the point, you can answer the question. So avoid unnecessary explanations. What is two-stage tendering? Explain it in relation to that. What is single sourcing? Explain it in relation to that. So go straight to the point. So number 1, avoid unnecessary definitions. Number 2, avoid unnecessary explanations or examples. Number 3, learn to be direct. Thus, you must answer the question directly to the question. You must state your answer directly to the question. Learn to be direct. The question said, state methods of procurement. Then you start. Oh, procurement is the process of purchasing goods, services, or works which are funded either in whole or in part by government. It is the means through which government is able to get services done, and it is one of the key issues that has to. What are you saying? What are you trying to say? Methods of procurement. You are giving what's that? Be direct. Write the answer directly to the question. You won't get any extra mark for writing non-seller, non-question. Something that someone didn't ask you of. Don't try that you are going to impress him. Because especially the reading subject or the reading aspect of most subjects, the average student think when he or she writes more, it means that. Now, if he writes more and they are all nonsense, the examiner will not give you anything for that. You are actually wasting the examiner's time. So you've got to be careful. Be direct. Write or state your answer directly to the question. Number 5, be conscious of time. That is why I am giving you that every question you have to use 1.8 minutes. Now, when I say be conscious of time, you got to balance that as well with your emotions. Because many people, when they hear 1 hour gone and they look at what is left, they have not even answered a question in 1 hour. That's time deficit. Because you've used another question's 24 minutes in the current question you are still on, which you are still not done. So being conscious of time, you got to balance that with your emotions. You got to balance that with your fear. Because some people start panicking when they hear 1 hour gone, 45 minutes more. Then they start panicking. Hey, I've not finished. I've not done this. I'm supposed to do this. No. Be conscious of time, but learn not to panic. Because you see, when you start panicking, you start failing. That's it. That is why you see, I say this, that examination is not for anybody. Exam is for people with sound mind. Exams is for people with sound body. Exams is not for people who are depressed. So when you start panicking in the exam hall, you start failing. Because when you start panicking, the flow of blood in your body, from your heart to your brain, from your heart to your brain, from your brain, you cannot focus. You cannot do anything again. You cannot even remember anything again. You shut your whole system down and you are just panicking. And it is there that you will see people chewing their pen and they start sweating profusely. So be conscious of time, but be careful that you are not panicking. You are not panicking. So avoid these things. Avoid unnecessary definitions. Avoid unnecessary explanation or examples. Learn to be direct. And then be conscious of time, but don't panic. So 1 hour gone. Don't panic. That is why, you see, you start panicking when you know you've not answered enough questions in the time that is gone. And the reason why you will experience that is when you start answering the wrong question first. So again, you are doing financial reporting. Then you think you are console boss. You think you know console AMA, but you don't even know anything. Because that's what we see a lot of students do. So you think you know console AMA, they go. You are supposed to spend 36 minutes on that question. 1.5 hours gone, they are still on console. That is where they start panicking. 1.5 hours. And sometimes students even go ahead to use 1 hour on console for 20 marks. 1 hour. And so 1 hour gone, you only have 2 hours, you are left with 4 questions. That is where they start panicking. That is where you start being fearful. That is where you start thinking. And that is where you start failing. And you will fail. Because that is where you start failing. Because you spent a lot of time trying to answer the console question when there were other cheap questions you could have answered straight. So after the exams, they even some people get home and they are flipping through the paper and they now realize that, there was a question like this I didn't see. How come I didn't see it? Yes, you did not see it because you refused to read through all the questions. That's it. So when you start panicking in the exam hall, you start failing. And that's very, very important. That's very, very important. So be conscious of your time, but don't panic. And the only way you can avoid panicking is to study very well. And when you get to the exam hall, read through the questions thoroughly and start with the question you can answer best first. Very, very important. I see some comments. Let me look at them real quick. Chino said, "Sir, please, I want you to explain the various types of revaluation treatment in the financial statement, revaluation at start, mid-year, revaluation, and revaluation at year-end." Now, when assets like IAS 16 states that entities are required to revalue their assets at least once every year, and the company can adopt to do the revaluation either at the beginning of the year, during the year, or at the end of the year. But the standard also states that real assets depreciation must be calculated always on the revalued amount. Depreciation must be calculated always on the revalued amount. So if depreciation is done at the beginning of the year, it means for that year's depreciation, we must calculate it on the revalued amount. Then, if we get revaluation surplus and the entity is making any transfer to the revaluation reserves, that means that we will do the transfer for that year. So it means at the beginning of the year, we will calculate the carrying value of the assets, compare it with the revalued amount. If it's a revaluation gain, we take it to the revaluation account and it will go to the OCI as well for that year. And then if the entity makes any transfer from the revaluation surplus to retain earnings, we will do the transfer for that year. So that is the treatment for the year start revaluation. Then sometimes the company can do the revaluation during the year. So apart from the year start, anytime that the company did the revaluation, at the time that they did the revaluation, we will just calculate the revalue amount. Sorry, we will just calculate the carrying value for that period. Meaning that depreciation will be calculated. So you used mid-year. So let's say they did the revaluation in June. Meaning that we will calculate the carrying amount of the asset as at June when they did the revaluation, the June ending when they did the revaluation. It means the depreciation of that year one will come there. Then from June to December, the depreciation will now be calculated on the revalued amount. Again, when you revalue and there is upward revaluation and the company has to be doing transfer, then you will do the transfer for the period within the year under consideration. Then your third question was revaluation at the end of the year. If the entity makes the revaluation at the end of the year, it means that depreciation has been charged already for that year under consideration. For that reason, any revaluation gain will just take it to other comprehensive income and take it to the revaluation surplus. There will not be any transfer if the company does transfer in relation to that. But also remember that at each of these stages, if there's a revaluation gain, the company can or we can be requested to work on the tax. So there could be deferred tax issue, deferred tax liability that we need to compute, especially when there is a revaluation gain. And when there is a deferred tax on revaluation gain, it doesn't go to the income statement usually. It always goes to the other comprehensive income. But sometimes the examiner will tell you it should go to the income statement. If the examiner tells you that, you take it to the income statement. But if the examiner is silent, then the deferred tax liability on the revaluation surplus always goes to the other comprehensive income in relation to that. So that is the issue about your revaluation. I believe that is clear. Then Alhaji Jallo said, you correct on that point of unnecessary definition. That's why people fail adaptive exams like CPA. I think if ACCA goes adaptive like CPA, it would be good. Okay, all right. So unnecessary definition, you agreed with that, Alhaji Jollof. Hey, I said Jollof. Sorry, okay. I'm calling you Jollof. Jallo, Alhaji Jallo. Thank you for that comment. Any questions, put them in the comment box. I want to read your comments. I'm sharing with you what you got to do in the exam hall in order for you to pass the exams. Number one, you got to study. Spend time to study. I tell you all the time. Now that the May exam has been postponed and ACCA June exams too has been postponed for many jurisdictions, Ghana postponed in relation to that. You've got to study. You've bought time. You've got to focus and you got to study. That's what you got to do. Study. Don't give yourself excuses. Don't be on social media watching Netflix, watching things. Study. You have an exams. That is why you have to study. Why do you register for an exams you don't study for? In the hope that you will pass. Then if you fail, you say God is not good. Who told you that? So you got to prepare for the exams. When you get to the exam hall, take time to read through all the questions. Take time to read through all the questions. Don't be egotistic. Because there are some of you, you are too arrogant. So when you get to the exam hall, that is where your arrogance rise. Who do you want to please? I mean, who do you want to please? Because it breaks my heart every semester when I read the examiner's report. It breaks my heart that 80% of students scored less than 40% of an exams. And this is not the first time. May 2018, May 2019, November 2018, almost the same thing. May 2019, the same thing. November 2019, the same thing. So the number of students failing high. Why? Because people are too full of themselves. They think they know when they don't know. So when you get to the exam hall, don't start with something you think you know. Because the average students, like I said, for financial reporting, corporate reporting, think that they know consolidation. But the examiner will strike you in console. He will bring something You've seen it before, but you've forgotten the treatment. Or you saw it, but you didn't pay attention. And that alone will break you up. And you will spend time thinking. Before you know it, the time is gone. And there are other questions you could have answered, and you couldn't answer. So take your time, read through the questions carefully, and start with the questions you can answer well, best, or best first, all the time. All the time. You can pass financial reporting without answering console. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't answer all questions, but plan. There are cheaper questions you could attempt in the exams, and that's very, very critical. Then when you now start writing your answers out, I said avoid unnecessary definitions. Avoid unnecessary explanation and examples. Learn to be direct. Don't whine and be giving us some Anansi stories that we don't. Be direct. Be direct. And then number 4, be conscious of time, but don't panic. And I've said that the only way you can reduce your panic level, once definitely you will be you will panic like once in the exam hall. But to reduce your level of panic and its seriousness, study very well. Study very well. And then number 2, read through the questions carefully. All. Question 2, read every letter. Don't skip any line. Read everything. Read everything. I don't know why you will start answering a question without reading everything. People just assume. Because, it's console. They said what? Statement of financial position. No, giddy. You think you will get marks for putting down the pro forma? 0. You won't get anything. Statement of financial position. Then you see they written down net assets, goodwill. Then they bring the parents. Then they bring the subsidiary. Okay. Then equity. They know the parents will come, not knowing that there could be share exchange that could change that figure. Then what are you doing? What are you doing? When you do that, you won't get any marks. Because we need a final answer. Writing assets, bringing the parent figure and the subsidiaries figure. You have not done anything. You are trying to be smart. Who are you outsmarting? So you've got to read through the questions. That is why if you look at how I answer questions in financial reporting, you realize that, and even public sector and all the calculation questions, I chew the question, and this is what I teach my students, and I teach all of you guys. Read through the questions one after the other. So when I say even read all the questions, like when you read, you are working as you are reading. So it's not that you sit down, fold your arms, and read through all the questions before that question 2. You read everything before you start writing. So you read, because when you're doing consolidation, the information is in almost every line. Almost every line is critical. So as you read every line, you'll start to work at it. That's very critical. That's very, very important. So you got to take your time to read through the questions. Take your time to read every aspect of the question. Every aspect. Don't assume. Don't try to be smart. You are not smart. It's not the time to show that you are. No, you are not smart. That's rather going to make you look stupid, and you're going to fail the exams, and you're going to say ICA. And one of the dumbest thing I hear a lot of people say is ICA there. No matter what you will do, ICA will fail you. What kind of dumb statement is that? Who makes that statement? ICA there, no matter what you write, they will fail you. Oh. So the person who passed, you are more important than the person? Or the person who passed paid bribe? That's why they passed him or her? Because when you are making such statements, you got to be thinking. Because the exams you fail, someone passed. So why did the person pass? The person did some of these things I'm sharing with you today. So you don't make such statements. I see it there, whether you like it or not, no matter what you write, you will still fail. I don't even know what to write again for ICA. I don't even know. I have tried. That is a stupid statement. Stop making it if you are making one. If you're watching this and you make such statements, stop making it, because you are showing your level of stupidity in relation to that. No examination body will fail you because they don't know you. You won't be failed for anything. If you write the right thing, you will be passed. That is why I'm asking you, before you make such statements, or if you know somebody making that statement, ask the person, you failed, but do you know some people passed? So why did they pass and you failed? It means you didn't do something right. And chances are, some of the people who make such statements, you look at their marks and it's not even closer to 50. It's not like 45 thereabout. You look at it and it is 25, 30, 28. You didn't do anything in the exam hall. You didn't learn. You didn't put in the work. You didn't put in the effort. So you've got to be serious. You see, the reason why I'm tackling this issue on this level, and I'm coming to you like that, is that this is why people fail the exams. This is why a lot of people fail the exams. And it's the hard truth. You take it or you can go to hell. But this is the hard truth. If you don't take this, if you don't understand this, if you don't do this in the exam hall, you're going to fail. And if you are somebody, I failed an exams once. And that was when, after failing the exams, I did not blame the examiner. I did not blame the examination, the examination body. I came back and I sat down and I analyzed. I introspect. I inspected everything. I looked at my study life, everything I did in the exam hall, and I realized that I was responsible for it. And it was from that day that I took a decision and say, I'm gonna study my heart out, and I'm gonna do everything as possible and make sure I get it right. That's it. So be serious. ICA is not difficult. ICA is not difficult. You can pass that exams hands down. If only you are ready to put in the work. If only you are ready to sacrifice. If only you are ready to do what it takes in order for you to pass the exams. Because I believe at the end of the day, that you can make it. Yeah, I have faith in you. I know you can make it. But you cannot make it without implementing some of these things. You cannot make it without doing what I'm discussing with you. You cannot make it. So yesterday I spoke to you about studying, and today I'm taking you to the exam hall. What you have to do in the exam hall, because the exams is passed in the exam hall. If you follow our politicians and our leaders, you will hear them when it comes to election time. They will say that the election is won not at the Electoral Commission's office, but at the polling station. Because it is at the polling station that if you are not vigilant enough, somebody will take advantage of you. So the election is won as the polling station. So your ICA exams, you pass it in the exam hall. It is not when the examiner is marking. No, you pass it in the exam hall. So right when you submitted your paper, if you fail, you have failed. If you pass, you have passed. The marking is just a confirmation of whether you passed or you failed. So you got to be careful what you do in the exam hall. But I believe that if you implement some of these strategies that I've shared with you today, you will go through yesterday especially and today, you will go through the exams successfully, and you definitely pass the exams. I believe that you will go through the exams successfully and pass the exams. So if you have any questions, put them in the comment box for me. I want to hear from you. What is it that you want me to share with you? Any questions you have? Chino, I think I answered your question already. I believe you are okay with that. So you comment below with any questions you have for me. about what you are studying, and also what I've shared with you today in relation to that. So make sure you implement these, because I know definitely you can become successful, and
Jalo said,
and you can take your life to the next level in relation to that. So let's see what we got here. First, some comments here. Okay, so I see a comment from Alhaji Jalo. He said, just subscribe to your YouTube channel. All right, Alhaji Jalo, thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you very much. I believe that you will get useful materials there to help you to prepare for your examination. It's my hope that you'll be able to get useful materials there, because we have over 350 videos already available on the channel for you. Right, so that is where I'm going to be ending with you today. Thank you very much for joining the broadcast today, and remember the strategies that I shared with you. If there is anything, see a comment. Let me see what we got there. Chino said, thanks a lot, Nhyira. You inspire me a lot, not only with what you lecture, but with also your advice and guidance you give towards success. All of them has 100% fact. You are indeed a mentor to me. Thank you very much, Chino. That is the purpose of life, and I need to just let you know the way it is, all right? Because if I'd known some of these things much earlier, it would have been much better than now, in that case. So sometimes I'm gonna be a bit tougher on you guys, but you got to just understand that that is the real thing, all right? The world is not fair. The world is not easy, cheesy. The world is for the tough. Okay, so if you want to be successful, you've got to be tough. And when we say toughness here, we're talking about mental toughness. You got to be tough mentally. You got to have the agility to stand and succeed. That's the real deal. Okay, that's the real deal. So thank you very much for joining the broadcast today, and I'm very excited to come your way all the time to provide you with some strategies that you can take your life to the next level. My objective, as always, for this platform and for my YouTube channel is provide content for students across the country, across the continent, and across the globe who are preparing for the ACCA, ICAG examination, or CPA, CFA examination, and want some answers to their questions. That is why I do that. And my main mission is to be able to just provide a content to students in relation to that, because I did not get that. Okay, I did not get that, but I've decided that, and with the support of my team, that hey, let's put content out there, let's assist students, and that will be the way we will make the world a better place. So thank you very much for joining the stream today. I believe that it was a useful stream for you, and you learned a lot of things today, especially in the exam hall and some other issues. Now, if you're watching to this point, it means that whether you started watching or you scanned through or whatever it is, if you're watching up to this point, one thing I want you to take away here is this: that the exams is passed in the exam hall. That's critical. So after you study, be conscious of what you do in the exam hall. make sure that you read through the questions carefully and don't leave any stone unturned. Read every line. Don't assume. Immediately you start assuming in the exam, oh, I thought, oh, I was thinking. Don't be stupid. Because immediately you start assuming for the examiner, you are being done. So don't do that. Because I have to be real with you on that level. Okay? Because if you start making statements, oh, I thought it was like this. You thought? Are you the examiner? So read through every line. Read through everything. And like I said, I gotta be that direct to you. Because I just want you to get it that way in relation to that. Read through every line. So thank you very much. I'll see you same time tomorrow, 6 p.m. And we will continue again. Tomorrow is Friday. I will also be sharing with you some strategies and be answering some questions as well for you in order to help you to prepare for your examination, pass your examination, and that ultimately take your life to the next level. So thank you very much, and I'll see you same time tomorrow. Remember, stay blessed, stay focused, maintain social distancing, wear your nose mask, sanitize your hands regularly, and make sure that you take very good care of yourself. Stay blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow.